the government calls Dr. Wagstaff to the stand.
Very well.
Your Honors, may I proceed?
You may.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name, spelling the last for the court?
My name is Quincy Thomas Wagstaff. My last name is spelled W-A-G-S-T-A-F-F.
And could you enlighten the court on your educational background?
Of course. I graduated summa cum laude from Oxford University, where I triple majored in economics, political science, and international relations. I then moved to the United States, where I attended Cornell University, where I received my master's degree in international studies. I then moved back to England, where I attended Cambridge University, where I received my PhD in international science.
With these outstanding credentials, how have you applied your knowledge?
I am a tenured professor at Iowa International University, where I have been teaching at a professorial capacity for the last 15 years, primarily in the area of international studies. I have also been called upon by various governmental agencies to assess political, social, and economic climates throughout the world.
Now, please tell the court how you became so involved with the country of Fredonia.
Absolutely. During my time at Cambridge University, I grew an affinity toward the country of Fredonia. In fact, I decided to write my doctoral thesis about it.
And what was this doctoral thesis titled?
It was titled Fredonia, a castigating examination of the fallacious documentary which relegated the knave and spree parties back to the Dark Ages.
And Doctor, what evidence, if any, have you reviewed prior to testifying today?
I have reviewed the respondent's application as well as documents connected with it. I've also reviewed many State Department and CIA reports regarding the country of Fredonia.
Now let's talk more about Fredonia. Could you please outline the history of Fredonia?
Absolutely. Fredonia is a country with a vibrant history. There are two major political parties within the country: the Knave, which consists of 45% of the population, and the Spree, which consists of 32% of the population. These two political parties have differing opinions and have been feuding constantly about them since the mid-19th century.
And what is the current situation of Fredonia?
Well, the Spree Party had held power in the executive branch from the years 1998 to the year 2010. However, in the November 2010 election, the Knave Party won both the legislative and the executive branches of government, and their president, Waxing Roth, became president.
And what happened after the 2010 election?
Well, as is after every election, there was a bit of unrest. Both parties, in a sense, were rioting in the streets. The Spree were claiming that the election was a sham, and the Knave were quite boisterous in their celebrations.
Now, Doctor, is there typically violence when a new party takes power?
In Fredonia, yes, after an election there tends to be violence. However, this violence quells soon after the election. Look at it this way. Let a volcanic eruption symbolize the election. Potential energy builds up to an eruption of a volcano, and as this volcano erupts, there is a bit of chaos. However, as this lava subsides and flows down the mountainside, it eliminates corruption and clears a path for a new and revitalized ecosystem.
Doctor, how does this apply to Fredonia?
Well, tensions mount before an election, and as an election occurs, there are many people that are unhappy with the results. It does tend to be a chaotic time. However, as the country becomes much more stable, the situation in Fredonia also becomes much more stable.
So is the country of Fredonia stable?
Absolutely. This is corroborated by the task force that I led in the summer of 2011, as well as the State Department report of Fredonia.
What inspired this task force?
Well, I was called upon by the Fredonian government as an unbiased and third-party source to determine whether or not the Spree people were being persecuted under the Knave government. I gathered a panel of several experts and began an investigation.
And what did this investigation conclude?
After reviewing all of the necessary evidence, we concluded that the Spree people should feel as safe economically and in their persons as the Knaves, and that the situation had become much more stable since the election.
Now, let's talk more about the change in power. In your expert opinion, why did Waxing Roth win the election?
Well, during the Spree rule in Fredonia, there was a massive debt and a monstrous spending problem within the country. In fact, there was a 5.4 inflation rate, which is very high in Fredonia at that time. These factors were several that led to the election of the Knave Party.
Did the Freedonian government attempt to save the country's economic standing?
Yes, because the country was in such a recession, the legislative and executive branches had to take measures to curb this recession. They cut discretionary spending within the country and enforced tax policies that weren't being enforced under the Spree government.
How was the government so efficient in making these reforms?
The Knave government dismissed many members of the Spree party that were in high-ranking positions and replaced them with Knave government officials. This process is very similar to the United States. When a Republican or a Democrat takes office, normally they will appoint members of their respective parties to cabinet positions.
Now, Doctor, how do these reforms affect Mr. Nars?
Well, the Freedonian government had to curb federal spending. This included money given to students who were studying abroad in the form of scholarships. This scholarship program was rescinded from all students, not just Knave, not just Spree, and instead these funds were used to curb the debt in Fredonia, as well as funds were given to students who were studying within the country's borders. Also, businesses that were very behind on the taxes were sold off to individuals.
Now, Doctor, earlier you mentioned you had reviewed the State Department report of Fredonia, correct?
That's correct, I have.
Your Honors, may I approach the witness for the purpose of entering what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6?
You may.
Let the record reflect I'm showing the opposing counsel what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6. Your Honors may find a copy of this document in your judge's notebook under the Exhibits tab. Let the record reflect I am now handing Dr. Wagstaff a copy of what's been previously marked as Exhibit 6.
Thank you.
Doctor, what is this document?
This would be the State Department report for Fredonia for the month of February 2011.
And is this the type of document reasonably relied upon by experts in your field of expertise?
Yes, it is.
And is this a fair and accurate copy of Exhibit 6?
As I'm looking through it, it does appear to be yes.
At this time, the government offers Exhibit 6 in evidence.
No objections, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
Doctor, could you please tell us about a few things important in this document?
Yes. If you look at the second page under the heading of Freedom of Religion, about 3/4 of the way down the page, you will see that in January of 2011 there was an interfaith council meeting between the Knave and the Spree parties, and tensions between these parties have significantly decreased since January of last year.
Is there any other significant information?
Yes, there is, in fact. If you look at the third page under the heading of crime, you will see that crime in Fredonia has significantly decreased since the Knave government has taken control. The Knave government has modernized their military and can now effectively investigate crimes and prevent violent, non-violent crimes and vigilantism within the country.
Now, Doctor, in your expert opinion, will the respondent be safe upon her return to Fredonia?
Based on all of my knowledge, research, and expertise, I can declare with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that the respondent should not be fearful about returning home.
Thank you, Your Honors. I have nothing further at this time. May I approach the tender evidence?
You may.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
And Your Honors.
Thank you.